Okay, it's 11:02, so I'm going to get started. Justin, I just want to confirm that we are recording.
We are recording.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. I'm Anne-Marie Santamarina from Lincoln IT, and I want to welcome you to our fourth session in what we're calling our Sip and Secure series, hosted with some of our premier security partners. We kicked this off last week in honor of National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and really excited to be here this morning with our partner Cisco. So I've got Kevin Switzer and Thomas Mann from Cisco, and they're going to spend the next 35 to 40 minutes talking to you about Cisco's approach to security and some of the products and integrations that they've had a lot of success with. So I'm going to hand it over to the both of you. And I want to thank everybody again for making time this morning to be with us.
All right, thanks a lot, Anne-Marie. And just to get started, Tom and I will introduce ourselves. My name is Kevin Switzer, technology consultant with Cisco, and entirely focused on cybersecurity and Cisco Security Solutions. About, I'd say at least a third of my job is to focus on general cybersecurity trends to make sure we know what's going on out there in the attacker industry so we can properly and accurately position our solutions to mitigate those. And been with Cisco a little over 13 years and been focused on cybersecurity for about 7 of those. Tom?
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot, Kevin. Yeah, as it says there, Tom Mann, Thomas Mann, whatever you like. But I cover Cisco Security also a little bit of data center on occasion. So I'm basically an engineer, a senior systems engineer, and do a lot of proof of concepts, a lot of demonstrations of the solution, trying to build them out and help people with the solutions. Take it away, Kevin.
All right, just to give you a quick view of our agenda for this session, I'm going to go over some general cybersecurity trends, and then we'll dive right into the Cisco solutions we're focusing on today. Umbrella, which is going to be our first line of defense these days for the internet. Cisco Duo, which falls under Zero Trust for the workforce. We're going to touch on the backend research team known as Cisco Talos, and then Tom's going to provide you with demos of the solutions we're going to reference here. So what we've been seeing in the general cybersecurity world, pretty sure it's no shock to anybody. We all know this. Many new work from home users, and going back to when we had to initiate this shift, it occurred extremely quickly, and in a lot, if not most cases, this was not done with security at top of mind. Everyone obviously was just trying to get everybody back up and running, making sure employees could connect to the systems back at the office and perform their job functions, have access to the data that they required. And this did create some new security holes and has left a lot of companies extremely vulnerable. One area that we're seeing is that a lot of users do not have access to using a VPN. When these systems were initially designed for some remote work, they just simply weren't able to or designed to handle the amount of VPN connections that are now being required. In the first phase, we did see an initial buying spree where companies were trying to purchase secure routers and additional firewalls to support those VPNs. Some did successfully. There was actually a hardware shortage for a short time, which has recovered. So in some cases, they simply were not able to have access to a VPN, or they simply were not activating it. Depending on the home systems, it could really bog down the network and slow things down, so people simply didn't want to activate that VPN. Another area we're seeing as a problem, and a lot of users just aren't really security top of mind. They're just trying to perform their job function. So we've seen an instance of low or no security on home networks. It wasn't really a major thought prior to all this. So we've seen a lot of users who don't have passwords on their routers at home, and also if you happen to live in a metropolitan area where if you're in an apartment building, there's a lot of people who can view your network if they desire. Back in March, there was a security company that reached out over the dark web to a lot of the major ransomware operators out there, and actually 2 of them responded and actually stated they were going to stop attacking hospitals and other healthcare providers during the pandemic. Part of this was they knew that if they actually did lock down a hospital, it could have catastrophic effects, and they were compassionate to that. Also, a part of that was if they did create a catastrophic event, then they knew that would catch the eyes of law enforcement, and they would actually come after them. So those ransomware attackers actually shifted their focus to the newly deployed work-from-home users. We've seen a sharp increase in successful phishing emails. Now, we're all hungry for information these days, especially when it comes to the pandemic and other social things going on. So these attackers were able to put together some very convincing emails to get users to click. It's simply irresistible to click in some cases. And the focus of this was both ransomware, and then also they really want to get a hold of your login credentials to your corporate system. Like I said, we've seen many work-from-home users, and they do not have a secure mentality. Proofpoint did a fantastic survey of quite a few people, and 45% said they admit to reusing passwords, which I think if people are honest, that number should be a lot higher. 50% do not have password protection on their home networks. This is pretty scary because, again, if you're in a rural area where a lot of people have view into your network, anyone who knows what they're doing, if there's no password protection, could get on and potentially do some harm pretty easily. 32% said they don't know what a VPN is. That's probably the most startling statistic to me as a security-focused person. If you're utilizing VPN and encrypts your traffic, you're enjoying the benefits of all the high-level security at the main office. If that's turned off, you're kind of reliant on many of the things, and that can be pretty thin. So I really hope that the people that answered in this way actually do have a VPN and hopefully use it. They just didn't know the terminology. At least that is my hope. And one of those major ransomware operators I had mentioned is known as NetWalker. And again, this is one of the companies or organizations, I should say, that focused on these new security gaps with work-from-home users and launching ransomware attacks in that manner. Since March, they have profited $25 million that is known of simply through ransomware attacking these work-from-home users. And their primary attack methods were simply starting out with a phishing email. They were able to obtain credentials, and they used what's called remote desktop protocol to simply log on as them to initiate this lockdown with the ransomware. Now, stepping forward, what we want to do to mitigate these types of attacks and also keep everybody working is we want to be able to provide connectivity to everyone back to the main office from no matter where they are and do it in a secure method. Now, Cisco does have an official strategy here. We call it Secure Remote Worker Solution, which compromises 4 products: Cisco AnyConnect VPN, Cisco Umbrella, Cisco Duo, and for endpoints, which is malware protection focused. For today, we are going to be focusing on Cisco Umbrella and Cisco Duo. Now, to start off with Cisco Umbrella, this was a company called OpenDNS and was acquired by Cisco and has been rebranded as Cisco Umbrella. Now, in the normal environment where we have the majority of our users working from the headquarters main office, we would consider this an additional line of defense. You already have things like next generation firewall in place, good policies, sandboxing available, and those types of things. But now if there was some sort of gap in those areas, whenever a malware gets on the system, for example, it does have to talk back to what we call a command and control server. That's what the server that attackers set up. So once the malware is in, it'll call back to that server and then download the rest of the malicious files. Now, that does require a DNS request, and that's where Umbrella comes in. Cisco maintains these DNS servers in the back end and basically scrubs out any known bad DNS entries. So in that case, we know that this command and control server is malicious. If that file requests a DNS query, it's going to prevent that from connecting and downloading anything further. Now, in today's environments where we have work from home users or roaming, this is actually acting as a primary and first line of defense. Now, this is the type of security that is always on. Anytime you do any type of internet request and a DNS request, it's going to check to see if that is a good request or if it's a bad site. So even if they are not utilizing that VPN and enjoying that high level of security at the main office, we still have a very good first line of defense, even if all of those other possible security fixes are not in place. And to give you a quick look at the scope of this, Umbrella is, if you've never heard it, is quite widely used. And just an idea of this, the view of the internet, Umbrella servers receive about 200 billion DNS requests per day. They have about 100 million daily active users, 20,000 or so enterprise customers, and is currently used in a little over 190 countries worldwide. And these data centers are strategically placed around the world at included in the data centers of the ISPs, which is going to be your major internet connection hubs. So a grand total of 31 data centers worldwide, and this utilizes what we call anycast routing. So if by chance one of these data centers happens to go down and is typically your primary data center for DNS queries, because it's anycast, it's going to bounce around, it's going to find a server that's up and running and keep you secure and connected. And one interesting fact is that since Cisco acquired OpenDNS 5 or 6 years ago, they have had 100% uptime, which we all know is nearly impossible these days to have, but they've actually maintained full 100% uptime. Tom, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot, Kevin. So part of the focus of Umbrella, of course, what Kevin mentioned, is providing protection. But in addition to protection, there's also visibility that Cisco Umbrella gives you. So you want visibility in what's happening with the devices, where the users are going. Are they going to bad sites? If they are they being blocked? You also want to know, and you want that protection to work both on network and off network. And it's not just your PC. You know, if you do it on network, meaning the corporate office could also have Umbrella protection in addition to the firewall. You know, that will help protect BYOD devices, IoT devices. That could be printers, smartphones, that type of thing. Off network, you could protect the little network at home, or you could go with what we call the roaming client and protect roaming devices wherever they are. What's nice too is it doesn't matter what type of site they're going to. Doesn't matter if it's HTTP, HTTPS, it can be blocking those bad sites no matter what the application is, if it's a bad site. You know, so the ability to support IoT devices and things like that, very helpful. Switch the slide. Okay, now I talked a little bit about the roaming client. So that's one way to use Umbrella is the roaming client. There's two versions of that. There's a regular one you install on Windows or Mac. There's a way to get it on Android. There's also, if you're using Cisco AnyConnect, there's a plugin for that. So AnyConnect would be Cisco's top-of-the-line VPN software. Well, Umbrella could plug right into it, so you don't have to install that roaming client separately. So that's very handy. And then on network, you know, you could integrate Umbrella with your corporate DNS servers, integrate with anyone's devices, but then there's deep integration with Cisco-specific devices, like Cisco routers, access points, and also Cisco Meraki, deep integration into that. And then they have a way through a virtual appliance. There's also, you can put out there, and then an Active Directory connector, so you can integrate into your Active Directory. All those come quite handy. Go ahead, Kevin.
Okay, so just to kind of give you a quick heads up on what the solutions actually do look like. So there's 3 different licensing tiers to this. And we don't have to go through every single one of these. I know it's kind of an eye chart, but just to give you an idea. So DNS Security Essentials, this is going to be your basic package. This is what's going to give you your basic level DNS security and most of the things that we've talked about so far. Now, the next tier, DNS Security Advantage, this is going to give you a couple of key additional features. So selective web proxy. And what this is going to provide you, that's a big advantage, is that when we'll talk about this a little bit more, but when we get into the actual web filtering and content filtering, I should say, you're going to have the ability to actually enable everything that is known by Talos to actually be blocked and things like that. The other big thing is if you happen to be into doing a bit deeper investigation into where threats have come from, what they're actually doing, and you really want to analyze those types of things, this level actually gives you access to Investigate Console. Previously, this feature was an add-on of several $1,000s, but now it is actually included in the DNS Security Advantage. Now, the next tier and top tier is called SIG Essentials. This is what's going to give you access to what's known as Secure Internet Gateway, which is actually a cloud-based firewall and contained in those features of Secure Web Gateway, which we're going to get to all these in detail here in just a moment. And with Cisco Duo, Tom, I'm going to hand the ball over to you at this point.
All right, I'll tee it up here. And let me put on the PowerPoint post haste. Okay, you should be seeing that. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about Cisco Duo, which works nicely with Cisco Umbrella. They really complement each other, two different technologies. They don't really overlap either. So the idea is, Cisco Duo is going to help secure authentication, basically. Doesn't sound all that exciting, but it's actually really important. So we'll dive right into it here. So one of the reasons why we want to look at something like Cisco Duo is some of the other security trends actually happening. So Kevin touched on it when he talked about the major trends, but part of it is the hackers are trying to attack users' identity. Once they get their identity, and that identity could just mean their username and password. Once they get that, then they can get into your network, get into a user's mailbox, get into cloud applications. That's the key, is the data these days that people want to get is all locked up in different cloud applications these days. Now, some of it might be on servers at work, but a lot of it is in cloud applications too. So if someone compromises a username and password to, say, your Microsoft 365 account, they now get access to everything you have in Microsoft 365. So you want to be able to secure that beyond username and password, because phishing is such an easy way for the hackers to get the username and password. In addition to targeting the applications and the identity, hackers are trying to break into your devices too, because if they own your client device, then they'd be able to actually get into your applications and take over your identity also. If someone wants to mute that, please.
88 something. I don't know what.
All right, so let me continue on then. So the way Duo works is it has capabilities to try to give you zero trust, of course. If you could mute the additional participants, please. All right, so it tries to give you zero trust for the workforce. The idea is you don't want to trust who the user is without validating them beyond username and password. You don't want to trust their devices without knowing if they're patched and up to date. And you want to make sure they're getting secure access to the applications. In addition to that, a good solution like Duo is going to also give a lot of visibility and allow you to enforce policies on both the users and the devices and the applications. So that's partly the way this works. So the primary function of Duo is multi-factor authentication. I'm actually going to have them log in with their original username and password. and then provide an additional authentication. And there's a lot of different ways that could happen. The primary is what we call push, where we're going to use an application, like on your mobile phone or a tablet, to hit a button and do that secondary form of authentication. Duo is actually extremely good at doing this. They were a pioneer in that push technology, and one of the pioneers.
Sorry, can folks mute their phones?
Yeah, Justin, I'm sorry, let me interrupt for a minute. Justin, can you just mute everybody except for Tom and Kevin? I don't have the ability to do that.
Yeah, you should be able to go to participants and mute people.
Yeah, I can't because I don't own the meeting, but there's someone on the phone that's not muted, and that's what we're hearing. So hopefully Justin can mute them and we can continue on. Sorry, Tom, for the interruption.
No problem. All right, I'll continue at this point. So the fact that we have all these various devices allows us to be very flexible in the way we authenticate users. I, for instance, could use my phone to authenticate my laptop going into, say, Office 365 or Salesforce.com or Box.com, any of those types of things. Think about all the places where the data could be. This is where this is helping. But if I'm in a situation, maybe I'm a worker in a hotel and there is no phone reception in the basement or in some area where they're doing laundry, you could have a backup where they get a phone call to get in, or maybe use a UTF. That'd be a USB stick that actually has a button on it. So I type in my username and password, and then I hit a button on the USB stick to do the second factor. That's more of a solution typically for like a desktop inside of an area. All right. Now, some of the other capabilities I mentioned are visibility. Was there a question? I'll continue on. So some of the other areas is the visibility into the devices. So I mentioned you want to make sure the users are who they say they are, but you also want to trust that the device they are on isn't running in Windows XP or something really old. So if anyone's got Windows XP, you need to get rid of that and get on Windows 10 or something else. So we get complete visibility into the state and the hygiene of that mobile device just from users logging in. It's amazing how much information Dual can gather to help administrators lock things down. It could also tie into, could gather that information, that security posture, with or without mobile device managers. It could tie into those and get more information, but it isn't even required to have a mobile device manager to get some device hygiene, like is the browser old, or are they running old Java, things like that. It also could tie into other software like Cisco AMP for Endpoints. So if AMP for Endpoints, which runs on the device, thinks the device is compromised, it could tell Duo's cloud, the clouds talk to each other, they're always chatting, and then Duo won't authenticate you in, basically, if AMP thinks your device is compromised. So this is just a quick snippet of that visibility. I'm actually going to go into it to show it to you for real. But the idea is I'm seeing all the authentications that are happening in the administrator dashboard, what operating systems are up to date or not up to date, things like that. Here's some of the actual security posture that it can gather. So I could be logging into an app from my phone, or I could be on like a Windows or Mac, or I could be on a tablet. So I want to make sure, say, if they're logging in an app from a tablet or a phone, that maybe that device is encrypted, that that device isn't jailbroken, things like that. I have a passcode on that device. Or if they're coming in from, say, a Windows or Mac, I want to make sure that they're not using a really old browser or old Java or old Flash. They also have an optional dual health application for Windows and Mac that gives you additional information, like is the Windows or Mac device encrypted. So there's different levels of capability. It's quite a bit actually without the health application, but you put that on there and it gets more information. That's just a really tiny agent, basically, but that is optional. I mentioned applications a couple times. The idea is users are logging in, well, to the network, maybe logging into VPN. They're also logging into many, many, many applications, hundreds, thousands of applications are out there. You'd be surprised if you actually go look, use something like Umbrella, which has application visibility. The amount of cloud applications the users are actually using is vast. So if there is corporate data in any of them, you want to make sure you authenticate users. So here's some Microsoft environments, supporting Active Directory, Office 365, some of the cloud storage and other cloud SaaS-based services. This is just a tiny list. It actually supports far more than this. We mentioned VPN, and Cisco has the AnyConnect VPN. But if someone decided they're not using Cisco for VPN, all the major firewall VPNs are supported with Duo. So they got your back there also. You also have different levels of Duo, just like we had different levels of Umbrella. So the entry level is called Duo MFA, which gives you the multi-factor authentication and single sign-on capability. Dual access is where I actually get the policies in question to give me more capability. Basically, the additional visibility into device hygiene and policies where I can say if a device isn't compliant, I'm not going to let it in. Basically, not let that user log into the application if the browser's too out of date. And then dual access allows us to do more granular device policies and integrate into third-party solutions like mobile device managers, AMP for endpoints, and others too, not just those. That way I can consider a device that has a corporate mobile device manager on it and is protected by Duo, that's a trusted device, and a device that doesn't have the mobile device manager is not considered a trusted device, and I don't treat that exactly the same. I might still let it in, but maybe not into all applications. I could be granular on which ones I control. All right, Kevin, why don't you take the next slide? I'll just drive.
Yeah, so earlier I had mentioned Cisco Talos, and where this name came from. Talos was the Greek god of protection, so Cisco decided to take that name and name the group after it. And Talos is their global threat research and intelligence team, and any single security vendor out there has a team like this that's doing the back-end research. And this team at each vendor is really what is the secret sauce to making any vendor securely effective, and gives them a good effectiveness rating. And there's all kinds of different statistics we could spend the next 20 minutes on, but just to kind of give you a couple. They receive about 120 terabits of data received daily, millions of telemetry agents. And what this means is basically this operates as a giant network as a sensor. So every single security solution that is operating out there in the world is in constant communication with Talos. So any type of threat that is actually blocked, it takes a note of that, say, hey, this threat came in, we blocked it, Talos, make a note of it. So all of these different appliances and agents out there are doing this and feeding that information back to Cisco. And likewise, when they said, for example, hey, this file came in, we thought it was good, but all of a sudden it started to act maliciously, or this DNS entry is now considered malicious. So it feeds that information back to Talos. They do the digging into it and research and say, yes, this is actually malicious and we're going to block it. And that is instantly fed back down to all the different other agents and appliances that are running out there in the world, that is Cisco, so they're instantly updated. They receive billions of samples of malware, phishing emails, DNS and web entries, intrusion preventions, and all these types of things on a daily basis. They have over 100 threat intelligence partners, so other types of research companies out there. There are about 250 to 300 employees at any given time. They are positioned strategically around the world, so really 24/7, 365. There are engineers available that are doing this type of research. And what Cisco wants and does attain is that they want to take care of at least 99% of the threats that are out there, so that you have time to focus on the potential of 1% that are left. And next slide, Tom. And I would like you to be aware that if you are interested, there are actually free trials available for both of the products we are talking about today. So with Cisco Umbrella, you have the ability to test out this solution for up to 14 days. And with Duo, it's up to 10 licenses for free without any type of real time frame that they're going to cut you off, but up to 10 licenses for free. If you are interested in trying these out at no cost, you can work with Anne-Marie to get that set up. And back to you, Tom.
All right, let me actually bring up some demonstration here. Now, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to log into my SecureX single logon portal, which you get when you get many of the Cisco security products. And it actually happens to be protected with Duo. So I'm actually going to sign in. Well, you got to make sure you get the username and password right. One second.
So while you're doing that, Tom, William, I just want to make sure Kevin dropped some information into the chat about your question with regard to if the Cisco Umbrella supports Chromebooks managed with the Google G Suite.
Yeah, so Cisco Umbrella has it has a Chromebook capability. It has a Chromebook client and can definitely be used with Chromebook. It's not specifically integrated into G Suite per se, but it works on a Chromebook fully, and then any site you go to would be protected. That makes sense?
I think William is still with us, right?
There we go. Yeah. So what happened?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
And there's a document in the chat as well that Kevin put there, and I can assist with any follow-up info. Thanks, Tom. Back to you.
Not a problem. So the reason I had it on that logon page too long, and that's why it wouldn't let me in. So you don't go to a logon page and let it sit there for a half hour, is the idea. But now that I put in my username and password, I'm protected by Duo here. I'm actually going to do send a push. And what will happen is I'll get notified on my device. And basically, I'm going to then, on the screen, hit approve. All right, and basically after that, it's gonna let me into the single sign-on. And now I can get into various Cisco security applications from the single sign-on that Cisco provides at actually no additional cost. So I'm gonna jump into Umbrella and we'll take a look at that real quick. So Cisco Umbrella, as I mentioned, or Kevin mentioned about visibility, it really gives you a great idea of what's going on in the environment as it's providing all that protection. So for instance, I logged into my actual Umbrella dashboard, and I could actually see how many networks I have, how many active roaming clients, those have that little client on them, and then what type of requests I'm getting. So I could see at any one time, on any particular day, I have over 200,000 DNS requests. Now, what makes it interesting is this is with only 2 or 3 people in the office in question at any time. The reason there's so many DNS requests is equipment, all kinds of different appliances, servers, demo stations, all of them talk to the internet, get updates, and do things. So there's just always communication going on. You get to really see that when you're looking at the DNS requests because everything uses DNS. You can also see, if it's doing blocks, like blocking security traffic. And so in this case, there were 394 blocks over the last 30 days. And again, that's with hardly any users there. I could then click on those, and then it comes in and shows me, you zoom out a little bit, right? There we go. Shows me what sites are being blocked, actually. So there's actually a bunch of weird URLs here that are being blocked. And some of these are regulars, a couple of them. There's a couple of machines that I got to go find eventually, probably demo stations that are consistently trying to go to these sites, and they're consistently blocked. But it's almost like a set demo for me that I get to show them over and over again. Yeah, so you could see a variety of these sites here that might be being blocked. So these are all blocked sites, as I was saying. If I go back over here, I could see a pop-out menu. And I could go back to the overview where we just were. So if I scroll down, I could see other types of blocks. Now, in this case, on my network, it went to 24 hours. It's all malware blocks. At the moment, there's no phishing blocks. I could set that back to 30 days. It might still be the same because there's so few users actually in the office at the moment. No, but there was a phishing attempt earlier in the month that was also blocked. There's also very good visibility into cloud applications. Now, this solution didn't always have that. That was added about a year and a half ago. If I click View All, it's going to bring up a list of all the cloud applications in use. Now, again, even when I have more people there might be 5 to 30 people on this network. Over the last 30 days, there's only been 2 or 3 people, but yet there's still 1,400 cloud applications in use in the environment that I'm supporting here. And you get to look up and down which ones are considered risky. And they're not all malicious. It's just the type of traffic, if they're in the wrong hands, can be risky. So this gives me deep visibility in every single application that could be running. So here's one called mail.ru. Let's actually click that. And I see the URL there. There was only one computer that tried to go there. And actually, I can decide if I want to not approve or approve it. I could come down here and actually see the business risk. That's kind of a bad reputation. Not horrible, but on the poor side. There's not a lot of risk to it here from financial viability, but it does have potential to lose data. I could also see that there was only one device one time tried to go there, and then it doesn't meet any compliance, this particular solution. So every single application that someone's using, no matter what it is, is categorized and there's information about it. It's very extensive. But then I could actually go do policies and block these things. So I could do policies where I'm going to do application lists, and not based on the malicious, but based on kind of a category and block applications. Like I might want to block anonymizers. These are those private personal VPNs. But if they're on my network, I don't want people hiding from me, my own security. So I might want to block these. And there's lots of them. These are always being updated. Or there might be other things other than anonymizers. There's all kinds of different applications. But this is at the application level. Maybe it's games, for instance, and there's going to be lots of different games in here. But also there's content categories, which is traditional URL filtering. So this gives me the ability to make content categories, which I'll also block based on my policy. And then I can get reporting on all this. I showed you a little reporting real quick, but I could come over and go to security activity directly and then actually see what's going on. Maybe I'll look at the last 30 days and see different events that are happening. Like this particular one was blocked. Or I could come back over and do activity search, which gets looks at it from a different point of view. Let me minimize that again. And actually, I clicked overview. Sorry about that. Let me go back to activity search. And it looks at a little deeper data, actually, the activity search. So you're seeing lots of URLs being blocked here. These are kind of how they're going out. I have lots of configurations. Some are integrated into Meraki security appliances. Some are just using my DNS. If I come over to the bottom here, I could scroll over and I can see more information about that type of application, that type of thing. So this is some of what Umbrella gives you. Now let me bring up Duo and get that out of the way. And let's see. Let me bring up Cisco dCloud here. Okay, and let me see if I got to sign into that. No, I'm already signed in. So I'm just going to go to the catalog here and bring up a quick demonstration of Duo. We won't take too long on this, but I'm going to take a look at an instant demo here. So this, I have Duo myself, but I don't have as much configured that I have in this demonstration facility. So let me back up a little. What I wanted to show is some of the things you see. First of all, this is the end user demonstration I actually went to first. So for instance, I already showed you Duo push getting in. If I wanted to set up a policy that looks like device hygiene, maybe I'd want to know if the device has old software. So in this case, they're logging into Office 365, and it pops up and says your browser is out of date. I might have a policy that still lets them in, or I might block them and say, let's update. And if they click that, they get more information that they're using Firefox. I click here, and it's actually going to come up, and it went to the Firefox website, actually. So it's telling me how to get the new version. So that's self-remediation, one small feature of it, actually. Now let me actually go into the admin portal and just show you quickly some of that visibility, and then we'll move on. So when I come into the admin portal, of course, there's lots, there's configuration. It's actually pretty easy to configure, but I get to see all the authentications as users are logging in, and I can click on any of these, or I could look at a log of what's happening and expand these and see information about each device coming in. But I could also go down to Device Insight and dive into that deeper. Now I'm seeing which devices are end-of-life devices. So this might be Windows XP or Windows 7. Which ones are supported devices? Which ones are out of date? So this is in this environment, there's 5,000 Macs that don't have enough updates. They're on older versions of Mac OS as opposed to current versions of Mac OS. Or I could go down to laptops and desktops and dive into that a little bit deeper, and find out which versions of Windows are actually in use, and then go look at those devices. Like if I wanted to look at 8.0, and then I see the actual devices in question that are using Windows 8. So this is just a quick demo of some of the visibility you get. Of course, we can configure then applications to log into, like cloud-based applications that this will work with, or VPN, or Active Directory. All these things are supported. So that's it for the Duo demo. Thanks a lot, and hand it back over.
Okay, I'm back on. So Tom, Kevin, thank you so much to the both of you and to Cisco for being here with us today. Just wanted to pause for a moment. Were there any other questions from any of the participants? Anything that we didn't cover or something that we covered that you'd like a little bit more information on? I'll check the chat real quick too, just to make sure we didn't miss anything. Okay, well, I think that that wraps up today's session. On behalf of Lincoln IT and Cisco today, I want to thank you all for being with us. We have 2 more sessions remaining next week, so if you're going to come back, we'll look forward to seeing you then. I just appreciate everyone taking the time this morning, and hope to see you again on the next session. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.